I can't believe I found you.
The Mafia boss found his greatest enemy's fiancée on the brink of death, freezing in the ice. Caught between handing her over to fate or saving her, he made an unthinkable choice. And something far worse followed. A single decision that shattered alliances, ignited betrayals, and shocked the entire criminal underworld.
Welcome to my library. I'm Lena, and our story is just beginning.
Chapter 1. The Runaway Bride.
I need to run!
The wedding dress weighs more than I expected, not because of the fabric, or the beading, or the layers of tulle that cost more than most people make in a year, but because of what it represents. A signature on a contract I never signed, an alliance sealed in blood that isn't mine to give. I stare at myself in the mirror of the bridal suite and barely recognize the woman looking back. She's perfect, polished, empty, exactly what they wanted. The door opens behind me, and I don't turn because I already know who it is. My father's second in command, the man who's been watching me like a prison guard for the past 3 days. 5 minutes, he says. Your father wants you downstairs. Tell him I need 10. He said 5. I meet his eyes in the mirror. Then he can come get me himself. The man's jaw tightens, but he leaves, closes the door with more force than necessary, and I have maybe 3 minutes before someone else comes, maybe less. I look at the window, 3rd floor, too high to jump without breaking something important, and the hallway is crawling with security while the ceremony is happening in the garden below where 200 witnesses are waiting to watch me become property. Not a wife, property. Because that's what this marriage is. My father trading me to Antonio Russo like I'm a shipment of guns or a piece of territory he no longer needs. The marriage seals the alliance, ends the tension between the families, gives both sides what they want, everyone except me. I spent 26 years being my father's daughter, being useful, being obedient, being exactly what he needed me to be, and this is how it ends, with me in a white dress, walking toward a man I've met twice, both times with my father in the room, making sure I smiled at the right moments and said the right things. Antonio looked at me the way men look at cars they're about to buy, assessing, calculating value, already planning modifications, and I feel sick. The door opens again. This time it's my cousin Sophia, who closes it quickly and leans against it like she's holding back an army. They're getting impatient, she whispers. Sarah, you need to go downstairs. I can't do this. You have to. But her voice cracks on the last word. If you don't, your father will what? I turn to face her. Kill me? He's already doing that, just slower. Sophia's eyes fill with tears. Please don't make this harder than it is. For who? For him? For Antonio? I take a step toward her. What about me, Sophia? When does it get easier for me? She doesn't have an answer because there isn't one. And I hear footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Multiple. They're coming. I'm sorry, I whisper to Sophia. Then I grab the small clutch I hid under the vanity table, the one with my phone, some cash, and the only thing I own that my father didn't buy, my mother's ring. Sarah, what are you? I don't let her finish. I open the door and walk straight into the hallway, past the security, past the family members lingering near the stairs. I walk like I'm supposed to be going somewhere, like I belong. No one stops me until I reach the service entrance near the kitchen where one of the catering staff looks confused. Miss Lockwood, the ceremony is... I know. I smile. Keep walking. I just need some air. I push through the door before anyone can question it further. The service area leads to the back of the property, away from the ceremony, away from the guests, away from the man waiting to claim me like a prize he won. I kick off the heels because they're impossible to run in. The grass is wet under my feet, cold, real, and I hear shouting behind me. They've noticed. They're coming. I run. The dress catches on branches as I cut through the garden toward the back gate. The gate that's supposed to be locked but isn't because the catering company needed access. Small miracle. Maybe the only one I'll get. I slip through into the alley, into the night, and behind me the shouting gets louder, closer. But I don't have a plan, don't have a destination, just instinct screaming at me to move, to get as far away as possible before they catch me and drag me back. I run through alleys I barely know, through neighborhoods that blur together. The city is divided into territories and everyone knows the rules. Stay in your family's area. Don't cross lines you're not supposed to cross, but I cross every single one. Because if I'm going to run, I might as well run straight into the fire. Straight into the one place my father can't follow without starting a war he's not ready for. I run until my lungs burn and my feet bleed, and the wedding dress is torn and filthy. I run until the adrenaline starts to fade and I feel the cold seeping into my bones. The temperature dropped while I was inside getting ready to become someone's wife. and now it's freezing and I'm barefoot in a dress that's soaked through from the wet grass and the light rain that started falling. I don't recognize the streets anymore. The buildings have changed. The energy is different, darker, more dangerous. I've crossed into Carter territory. The family my father has been quietly warring with for years. The family Antonio was supposed to help him destroy. The family whose leader is rumored to be the most dangerous man in the city. My foot catches on something in the dark, a piece of broken pavement, a rock. I don't see it until it's too late, and pain explodes through my ankle as I go down hard. My hands scrape against the frozen ground. The wedding dress tangles around my legs. I try to get up, but my ankle won't hold me. The pain is sharp and immediate, and I know I've done real damage. And behind me, I hear cars, voices. They're still looking for me. I drag myself into the shadows between two buildings, press my back against the cold brick wall. My whole body is shaking now from cold, from pain, from the reality of what I've done crashing down on me all at once. I can't run anymore. Can't hide, can't even stand, and the cold is worse now, seeping through the wet fabric, into my skin, into my bones. I curl into myself, trying to preserve what little warmth I have left. This is how they'll find me, broken and freezing in an alley wearing a wedding dress I never wanted. And my eyes are getting heavy. The shaking is slowing down. Some distant part of my brain recognizes that as a bad sign, but I'm too tired to care anymore. I hear footsteps, different from before, slower, more controlled, just one person, and I try to look up, but my vision is blurring. All I see is a dark silhouette against the streetlight, tall, broad, moving with the kind of confidence that says he owns these streets. "Well," a voice says, low, rough, "this is unexpected." I try to speak, but my teeth are chattering too hard, and the figure moves closer, crouches down. I see him properly now. Dark hair, sharp features, eyes that assess everything in seconds. He's wearing a perfectly tailored black coat, and there's a gun visible at his hip. This is Carter. Has to be. The way he carries himself, the way the shadows seem to bend around him. "You're freezing?" he says. Not a question, an observation. "I'm fine," I manage through chattering teeth. He makes a sound that might be amusement. "You're a terrible liar." His eyes move over me, taking in the wedding dress, the torn fabric, the blood on my feet, the way I'm holding my ankle. "And you're hurt. I can walk." "No, you can't." He stands, shrugs off his coat, and before I can protest, he's wrapping it around me. The warmth is immediate and devastating. I didn't realize how cold I was until now. "Thank you," I whisper. He doesn't respond, just looks at me with those dark eyes that see too much. Then he does something I don't expect. He picks me up. One arm under my knees, one behind my back, lifting me like I weigh nothing, even with all the layers of this ridiculous dress. "What are you doing?" My voice comes out weaker than I want. "Getting you out of the cold before you die in my alley." He starts walking. His stride is steady, controlled. "That would be inconvenient for both of us. I should protest, should demand he put me down, should do literally anything except let the most dangerous man in the city carry me through his territory like I'm something precious. But I'm so cold, and his chest is so warm, and for the first time in hours, maybe years, I feel something that might be safe. "Who are you?" he asks. "Sarah Lockwood." His steps don't falter, but something changes in his expression. "Lockwood's daughter." "Yes." "In a wedding dress?" "Yes." "Running through my territory?" "Yes." A pause, then quieter. "Who were you supposed to marry?" "Antonio Russo." This time he does stop walking, looks down at me with an expression I can't read. "And you ran." "I ran." Something flickers in his eyes, something that might be respect or calculation or something else entirely. "Interesting," he says finally, then keeps walking, and I should be terrified, should be planning my next escape, should be doing anything except relaxing into the arms of my father's enemy. But his coat smells like expensive cologne and gunpowder, and his heartbeat is steady against my ear. And for the first time in my life, I'm choosing to trust my instincts instead of my training, even if those instincts led me straight into the arms of the devil himself. Chapter 2. The Strategic Choice.
You won't die.
Carter carries me through streets that get progressively quieter, darker, more exclusive. The kind of quiet that comes with money and power and the unspoken understanding that certain people own certain spaces. And I realize we're moving deeper into his world with every step. I should be paying attention to where we're going, should be memorizing landmarks and exit routes like my father taught me. But the warmth of his coat and the steady rhythm of his footsteps are making it hard to think about anything except the fact that I'm still alive, still breathing, still free in the most twisted sense of the word. "You're surprisingly calm," Carter says without looking down at me. His voice is low, almost conversational, but there's an edge underneath that reminds me exactly who's holding me right now. Would panicking help? No. A pause, then something that might be approval in his tone. But most people in your situation would try anyway. I'm not most people. Clearly. He glances down at me briefly. His eyes are dark in the streetlight, unreadable. Most people don't run from their own wedding straight into enemy territory. Maybe I'm suicidal. You're not. He says it with such certainty that I almost ask how he knows. But then he continues. Suicidal people don't fight to stay warm. You were curled up, trying to preserve heat when I found you. That's survival instinct, not a death wish. The observation is too accurate, too personal, and I don't know what to do with the fact that he noticed, that he cared enough to analyze it. We turn down a private drive lined with trees that are probably beautiful in daylight, but look like sentries in the dark. And at the end sits a house that's more like a fortress. Modern lines and steel and glass that probably cost more than my father's entire estate. Security cameras visible at every angle. Guards stationed at positions that look casual, but aren't. They all straighten when they see Carter. Their eyes flick to me with professional curiosity, but no one says a word. No one questions why their boss is carrying a woman in a wedding dress through the front door at past midnight. The interior is exactly what I expected. Expensive and cold and meticulously designed, all sharp edges and dark colors, the kind of space that looks like it's never been lived in, only occupied, but Carter moves through it like he owns every molecule of air, which I suppose he does. He carries me up a flight of stairs, down a hallway, into a room that's surprisingly warm compared to the rest of the house. There's a fireplace that's not lit, a large bed with dark sheets, a bathroom visible through an open door, and floor-to-ceiling windows that probably offer an incredible view in daylight, but right now just show the city lights in the distance. He sets me down on the edge of the bed with surprising gentleness, then steps back, puts distance between us like he's just now remembering that I'm supposed to be an enemy, not someone he should be carrying around like something precious. "Stay here," he says, already moving toward the door. "Do I have a choice?" He pauses, looks back at me with an expression I can't read. No, but I thought I'd be polite about it anyway. Then he's gone. The door closes behind him, and I hear a lock click, subtle but definite, and I'm alone in a stranger's bedroom wearing a ruined wedding dress and nursing an ankle that's swelling inside what's left of my dignity. I should try the windows, should look for another way out, should do something other than sit here waiting to see what happens next. But my body has other ideas. The adrenaline is crashing hard now, and everything hurts, and I'm so tired I can barely think straight. The door opens maybe 10 minutes later. Carter's back, but he's not alone. There's a woman with him, older, professional looking, carrying a medical bag that makes my stomach drop. "This is Dr. Hayes," Carter says. His tone is different now, more formal, the warmth from earlier completely gone. "She's going to look at your ankle." "I'm fine." "You're not." He leans against the wall, arms crossed, watching me with those dark eyes. "And since you're currently my problem, I'd prefer you didn't lose the foot to infection or frostbite." Dr. Hayes approaches with the kind of calm efficiency that says she's seen worse, much worse, and she doesn't ask questions about the wedding dress or why I'm here or anything else that might be considered polite conversation. She just examines my ankle with gentle, competent hands. "Sprained," she announces after a moment. "Not broken. You're lucky. But you need to stay off it for at least a week. Ice, elevation, compression. I'll wrap it and leave you some pain medication." She works in silence while Carter watches, his expression giving nothing away. And I hate that I'm aware of him. Hate that even now, exhausted and hurt and trapped, some part of me is hyper-aware of every time his eyes move over me, cataloging, assessing, deciding what to do with the problem that literally ran into his territory. Dr. Hayes finishes, packs up her bag, and leaves with a brief nod to Carter. The door closes again, and this time it's just the two of us. The silence stretches, and I realize this is it. This is where he decides if I'm useful or disposable, an asset or a liability. "So," Carter says finally, pushing off the wall and moving closer, not threatening, but not casual either. "Sarah Lockwood, runaway bride, currently bleeding in my guest room. Want to tell me what your plan was after you crossed into my territory?" I didn't have a plan. Everyone has a plan. Not me. I meet his eyes. Refuse to look away even though everything about him is designed to make people submit. I just ran, that's it. No strategy, no endgame, just pure survival instinct and really bad decision-making. He studies me for a long moment, then surprises me by sitting in the chair across from the bed. Casual, like we're having a normal conversation instead of a negotiation for my life. "Your father must be losing his mind right now." "Probably." "And Antonio Russo?" "Definitely." "Good." The word comes out with such satisfaction that I almost smile. Then he leans forward slightly, elbows on his knees, hands clasped, and the casual facade drops. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to answer them honestly. Because lying to me would be the stupidest thing you could do right now. And based on the fact that you're still alive, I'm guessing you're not that stupid. What do you want to know? Why did you run? The question is simple, but the answer isn't. I could give him the easy version, the one about not wanting to marry a man I don't love, about being traded like property, about all the surface reasons that are true, but not the whole truth. Instead, I tell him something real, because I looked at my life and realized I had become invisible. The words come out quieter than I intend. Not to other people. They saw me fine, saw exactly what they wanted to see. The obedient daughter, the perfect alliance, the acceptable wife. But I had disappeared. The person I actually am, the person I might want to be, she was gone, erased by years of being useful instead of human. Carter's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Something that might be understanding, might be recognition, might be the first crack in whatever wall he keeps between himself and the rest of the world. So, you ran. So I ran into the worst possible place you could have chosen. Or the best. I hold his gaze. My father can't come here without starting a war, and Antonio won't risk the alliance by pushing too hard. For the first time in my life, I'm somewhere they can't reach me, even if it means I'm trapped somewhere else instead. You think you're trapped here? Aren't I? He doesn't answer immediately, just watches me with that unsettling intensity, like he's reading layers of me I didn't know existed. Then he stands, walks to the window, looks out at the city with his back to me. Your father and Russo are going to want you back. His voice is different now, harder, more businesslike. Not because they care about you, because you're leverage, a bargaining chip, proof that they can control their own, and having you here makes me a problem they need to solve. I know, which means keeping you puts me in a difficult position. He turns back to face me. I could send you back, wash my hands of this entire situation, let you become someone else's problem. My stomach drops, but I keep my expression neutral. You could, I agree. That would be the smart move. It would. He moves closer, stops a few feet from the bed. Or I could use you. A runaway bride is valuable. Your father would pay handsomely to get you back. Russo might pay more to avoid the embarrassment. I could auction you off to the highest bidder and come out significantly richer. The words should terrify me, but the way he says them, clinical, detached, like he's discussing a business transaction instead of my life, tells me he's testing me, seeing how I'll react. You could do that too, I say steadily. That would also be smart. But I don't think you will. His eyebrow raises slightly, the first real expression I've seen from him since we entered this room. Why not? Because if you were going to do either of those things, you wouldn't have wrapped your coat around me, wouldn't have carried me here, wouldn't have called a doctor for a sprained ankle. I lean forward slightly, ignoring the pain in my ankle. You would have left me in that alley or brought me straight to a cell. Those are the moves of a man who's already decided. But you brought me here to what looks like a guest room, and you're asking me questions instead of making demands, which means you haven't decided what to do with me yet. Silence, heavy and loaded. Then Carter does something unexpected. He smiles. It's small, barely there, but it transforms his entire face for just a second. Makes him look less like a crime lord and more like a man who appreciates being surprised. You're observant? I had good teachers. I don't mention that my father was one of them. So, what are you going to do with me? He considers this. The smile is gone, but something has shifted in his expression. Some calculation happening behind those dark eyes. Then he moves to the door, pauses with his hand on the handle. I'm going to let you rest, he says finally. We'll talk more in the morning when you're not half frozen and exhausted, but for now, you're safe here. The door will be locked, but that's for your protection as much as containment. Not everyone in this house will be happy about having Lockwood's daughter under our roof. And tomorrow, he looks at me one more time, and there's something in his eyes I can't identify, something that makes my breath catch. Tomorrow we figure out if you're a problem or an opportunity, he says. Sleep well, Sarah. Then he's gone. The lock clicks, and I'm alone again. But somehow the room feels less like a prison than it did before. Maybe because for the first time since I can remember, someone looked at me and saw a person instead of a piece on a board. I lie back on the bed, still wearing the ruined wedding dress, still covered in his coat that smells like cologne and danger, and I think about the way he carried me through the streets, the way he looked at me when I told him the truth, the way something almost human flickered across his face when I challenged him. This is the man my father has been warring with for years, the man I'm supposed to fear, the man who holds my life in his hands, and somehow I feel safer here than I did in my father's house surrounded by family. I close my eyes and let exhaustion take me, and the last thought I have before sleep claims me is that I just traded one cage for another, but at least this time, the bars feel a little less like they're crushing the life out of me. Chapter 3. The Woman Behind the Bride.
I am not property.
I wake up to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the immediate realization that I'm still wearing a wedding dress, or what's left of one. The fabric is stiff with dried rain and dirt, and the bodice is digging into my ribs in a way that makes breathing uncomfortable. My ankle throbs with a dull, persistent ache that reminds me exactly how I ended up here, and for a few disoriented seconds, I almost forget where here is. Then I see the unfamiliar room, the expensive minimalist furniture, the locked door, and everything comes rushing back. I'm in Carter's house, in enemy territory, trapped in the closest thing to safety I've had in years, which is either ironic or just deeply messed up. I haven't decided which yet. There's a knock on the door, sharp and professional. Then it opens before I can respond. Carter walks in carrying a tray with coffee and what looks like breakfast. He's dressed differently than last night. Dark jeans and a black t-shirt that does absolutely nothing to make him look less dangerous. If anything, it makes it worse because now I can see the way the fabric stretches across his shoulders and the tattoos that snake down his forearms. "Good morning," he says, setting the tray on the table by the window. "I wasn't sure what you liked, so I had them bring options." I push myself up to sitting, every muscle in my body protesting, and I'm suddenly very aware that I look like absolute hell, hair tangled, makeup smeared, dress torn, while he looks like he stepped out of a magazine spread about beautiful, dangerous men. "Thank you," I manage. My voice is rough from sleep and cold. "There are clothes in the bathroom." He gestures to the door. "Nothing fancy, but they should fit. You can shower, change, whatever you need, then we talk." It's not a request and we both know it, but the fact that he's phrasing it like I have a choice is interesting, like he's trying to maintain some illusion of civility, even though we both understand the reality of the situation. "And if I refuse to talk? Then you sit in that ruined dress being uncomfortable while I ask questions anyway." He moves to the chair across from the bed, sits with the kind of casual grace that probably took years to perfect. "Your choice." I consider arguing, but my body has other priorities, like getting out of this dress before I lose circulation to major organs. So I grab the coffee, take a long sip that burns all the way down in the best possible way, then push myself up and limp toward the bathroom. "Need help?" Carter asks. His tone is completely neutral, but there's something underneath that makes heat crawl up my neck. "I'm fine." "You're limping." I'm aware. I pause at the bathroom door, look back at him, but I think I can manage to undress myself without assistance. Shame? The word is so quiet I almost miss it. Then he looks up, and there's something in his eyes that wasn't there before. Something heated and interested and quickly shuddered. "Take your time." The bathroom is as expensive as the rest of the house, all marble and chrome and a shower that probably has more settings than my father's security system. There's a stack of clothes on the counter like he promised, soft pants and a sweater that look brand new, and I don't let myself think about why he has women's clothes in his house or who they might belong to. The shower is torture and heaven simultaneously, hot water stinging against scraped skin and bruised muscles while simultaneously washing away the last physical remnants of yesterday. I watch the water turn gray with dirt and makeup and the ghost of who I was supposed to become, and by the time I turn it off, I feel almost human again. The clothes fit perfectly, which is either luck or Carter is very good at estimating sizes. I don't want to think about which option is more unsettling. I towel dry my hair, leave it hanging loose because I don't have the energy for anything more complicated. And when I look in the mirror, I barely recognize myself. No makeup, no styling, no armor, just me, raw and real, and more vulnerable than I've been in years. When I come out of the bathroom, Carter is exactly where I left him. He looks up as I emerge and something crosses his face too fast for me to identify. Then it's gone and he's back to being unreadable. "Better?" he asks. "Cleaner, at least?" "Sit." He gestures to the chair across from him. There's a small table between them with the breakfast tray. "Eat something, then we talk." I should probably be more cautious about food from a crime lord, but my stomach has opinions about the last time I ate, which was approximately 24 hours ago, so I sit and reach for what looks like toast. "So," Carter says once I've taken a few bites, "let's start with the obvious question. What did you think would happen when you ran into my territory?" "Honestly," I meet his eyes, "I thought I'd probably die, but that seemed preferable to marrying Antonio Russo, so here we are." He doesn't react to the brutal honesty, just watches me with that intense focus. "You expected me to kill you." I expected you to do whatever was strategically beneficial. I take another bite. My hands are steadier now, which might have been killing me, might have been sending me back, might have been something else entirely. I didn't really have the luxury of planning that far ahead. And now I'm sitting in your house, eating your food, wearing your clothes. So clearly the killing option is off the table, for today at least. The corner of his mouth twitches. Might be amusement. You're very calm about all this. Would crying help? No. Then what's the point? I lean back in the chair, ignore the way my ankle protests. I'm in an impossible situation. Panicking won't make it less impossible. It'll just make me look weak, and I don't particularly feel like giving you that satisfaction. This time he does smile. It's small and sharp, and does absolutely devastating things to his face. Most people would be begging by now. I'm not most people. No, he agrees. The smile fades, but something remains in his eyes. Something that might be respect. You're not. Which brings me to my next question. What made you think I wouldn't just hand you back to your father? I didn't think that. I set down the toast. My appetite is gone as quickly as it came. I just hoped you'd see the strategic value in not doing it immediately. And what strategic value would that be? Having Lockwood's daughter gives you leverage. I say it matter-of-factly, like we're discussing weather instead of my worth as a hostage. My father can't move against you without risking me. Antonio can't push too hard without looking weak, and you get to watch them both squirm while you decide what to do with me. It's not a bad position to be in. Carter leans forward slightly, elbows on his knees, and the casual facade drops completely. You're talking about yourself like you're a chess piece. Aren't I? I hold his gaze. Isn't that what I've always been? What I was to my father? What I would have been to Antonio? What I am to you now, the only difference is I'm choosing to acknowledge it instead of pretending there's something more. Silence stretches between us, heavy with things neither of us are saying. Then Carter does something unexpected. He stands, walks to the window, stares out at the city with his back to me. Your father called this morning. His voice is different now, harder. He wants you back. Offered a significant amount of money for your safe return. My stomach drops, but I keep my voice steady. And Antonio called an hour later. He turns to face me. Offered twice as much. Apparently losing his bride is bad for business. Makes him look weak, makes the alliance look unstable. So you're having an auction, I say flatly. Congratulations. I hope you get a good price. I didn't say I was accepting either offer, but you're considering it. I'd be an idiot not to consider it. He moves back toward the chair but doesn't sit, just stands there looking down at me. That kind of money could fund operations for months, could expand territory, could buy weapons and influence and everything else that keeps an empire running. Then take it. I push myself to standing even though my ankle screams in protest. I need to be on my feet for this, need to face whatever's coming without looking up at him. Send me back, cash in, move on. I understand the game. Do you? Yes. I'm proud that my voice doesn't shake. I understand that I'm a commodity, that my value is determined by what other people will pay for me, that ultimately I don't get a say in what happens because that's not how this works. So if you're going to send me back, just do it. Don't drag it out with this performative conversation where you pretend my opinion matters. Carter's expression shifts, something almost like anger flashing across his face. You think that's what this is? Performance? Isn't it? I take a step toward him, ignore the pain. You're the one who said I'm your problem. Well, problems get solved. So solve it. Make your strategic decision and stop pretending there's anything else to consider. What if there is? The question stops me cold. What? What if there is something else to consider? He closes the distance between us, not threatening but deliberate, until we're close enough that I have to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You ran from your wedding, injured yourself in the process, nearly froze to death in an alley, all because you refused to be someone's property, and now you're standing here telling me to treat you like property anyway. Do you see the problem with that? I don't have an answer because he's right, and I hate that he's right. I don't need you to beg, Carter continues. His voice is lower now, more intense. I don't need you to cry, or plead, or offer me anything in exchange for not sending you back, but I do need you to stop acting like you're already defeated, because that woman who ran through half the city in a wedding dress, that woman who looked me in the eye and told me the truth instead of whatever she thought I wanted to hear, she wasn't defeated, she was fighting. Maybe I'm tired of fighting. Maybe. He reaches up, and I think he's going to touch my face, but he doesn't, just lets his hand hover there for a second before dropping it. But I don't think you are. I think you're scared that if you admit you want to keep fighting, someone will use it against you. The accuracy of that statement steals my breath. You don't know me. No, he agrees. but I know what it looks like when someone is pretending to be something they're not. And right now, you're pretending to be resigned when really you're just waiting to see if this cage is going to be better or worse than the last one. I want to argue, want to tell him he's wrong, but the words won't come because he's seeing through every defense I've carefully constructed, and that's more terrifying than anything else that's happened in the past 24 hours. Why do you care? I ask finally. Why does it matter to you whether I fight or not? Carter studies me for a long moment, something complicated playing across his face. Then he steps back, puts distance between us again. I haven't decided yet. His voice is back to being controlled, professional. But for now, you're staying here, not in this room. You'll have freedom to move around the house, within limits, and you won't be handed back to your father or Antonio. Not today, at least. Why? Because I want to see what happens when you stop performing too. He moves toward the door, pauses with his hand on the handle. Your father created something specific when he raised you. Lockwood's perfect daughter, the acceptable bride, the strategic alliance, and I'm curious what's underneath all that. And if there's nothing underneath, if this is all there is, he looks back at me, and there's something in his eyes that makes my heart skip. Then I'll be disappointed, but somehow I don't think that's the case. Then he's gone, the door closes, but this time I don't hear a lock, and I'm left standing in the middle of his guest room wearing his clothes and trying to process a conversation that felt more dangerous than being carried through enemy territory. Because Carter didn't look at me like I was property or leverage or a strategic opportunity. He looked at me like I was a puzzle he wanted to solve, and that's infinitely more terrifying than being treated like a commodity. I sink back into the chair, my ankle throbbing, my head spinning, and for the first time I wonder if running into his territory was the worst decision I've ever made, or possibly the best. Chapter 4, The Heart Beneath the Ice.
I care.
I spend the rest of the morning exploring the parts of the house Carter said I could access, which turns out to be more than I expected. He wasn't lying about the freedom within limits thing. There are clearly areas that are off limits, doors that are locked, hallways where guards are stationed, but the main living areas are open, and I'm surprised by how much space there is. The house is massive, all clean lines and expensive materials and the kind of design that looks like it came straight from an architecture magazine, but it's also oddly empty, like someone built a showroom instead of a home. There are no personal touches, no photographs, no evidence that anyone actually lives here instead of just existing in the spaces between business. I find a library that takes my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with books that look actually read instead of decorative, and for the first time since I woke up, I feel something that isn't fear or exhaustion or confusion. I feel curious. I run my fingers along the spines, reading titles. Some are what I'd expect. Business books, strategy, history of warfare, but others surprise me. Classic literature, poetry, philosophy, the kind of books that suggest whoever owns them thinks about more than just power and money. Finding anything interesting? A voice says from behind me, and I spin around so fast I nearly lose my balance on my bad ankle. It's not Carter. It's a woman, maybe in her 50s, dressed professionally but not formally. She's watching me with the kind of expression that says she's already decided what she thinks of me and isn't particularly impressed. Just looking, I say carefully. I'm sure you are. She moves into the room. Her posture is relaxed, but there's something guarded in her eyes. I'm Margaret. I run the household, which means I'm the one who has to deal with unexpected guests. The emphasis on unexpected makes it clear she's not thrilled about my presence. I'm Sarah. I know who you are. Margaret crosses her arms. Lockwood's daughter, the runaway bride, Carter's new project. The staff has been talking about nothing else since you arrived. I'm not a project. No? She raises an eyebrow. Then what are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're a complication we don't need. Your father is already making threats. Antonio Russo called twice this morning, and Carter is refusing to take any calls about you, which means he's planning something. And when Carter plans things, people tend to get hurt. The bluntness is almost refreshing after a morning of careful conversations. I didn't ask to be here, but you are here. Margaret's expression softens slightly. Look, I'm not trying to be cruel, but you need to understand what you've walked into. This isn't a safe house. It's not a refuge. It's the heart of an organization that your father has been trying to destroy for years, and the fact that Carter hasn't sent you back yet means he sees value in keeping you. The question is what kind of value? I know what I am to him. Do you? Margaret studies me for a long moment. Because Carter doesn't usually bring problems home. He solves them elsewhere, keeps them separated from his personal space, but you're here, in the main house, wearing his clothes, eating at his table, which means something about you is different. I just Haven't figured out what yet. Before I can respond, Margaret's phone buzzes. She glances at it, and her expression shifts to something more professional. "Carter wants you in his office in an hour," she says, already moving toward the door. "Down the hall. Last door on the right. Don't be late." Then she's gone, and I'm alone in the library again, surrounded by books that tell me more about Carter than any conversation has. He's not just a crime lord. He's someone who reads poetry, who thinks about philosophy, who fills a house with books instead of weapons. I spend the next hour reading, or trying to. My mind keeps wandering to what Margaret said, about Carter planning something, about me being different, about the fact that I'm here in his home instead of locked in some remote location. When the hour is almost up, I make my way down the hallway Margaret indicated. My ankle is feeling slightly better but still tender, and I'm trying not to limp too obviously when I hear music coming from one of the rooms. Not just any music, classical piano, something beautiful and melancholic that makes me stop walking. The door is slightly open, and I know I shouldn't look. No, I should just keep walking to Carter's office. But curiosity wins, and I peek through the crack. There's a grand piano in the center of the room, and sitting at it is Carter. His back is to the door, his fingers moving across the keys with the kind of fluid grace that comes from years of practice, and he's playing something that sounds like it's breaking his heart. I've never seen him like this, without the careful control, without the mask of the dangerous crime lord, just a man playing piano like it's the only thing keeping him sane, and something about it makes my chest tight. I should leave, should give him this private moment, but I can't make myself move, and then the worst possible thing happens. My phone buzzes in my pocket, loud in the quiet hallway, and Carter's hands stop moving. He turns, sees me standing there watching him, and for a second neither of us moves. Then something complicated crosses his face, surprise and annoyance, and something else I can't identify. "How long have you been standing there?" His voice is carefully neutral. "Not long." I step into the room because there's no point pretending I wasn't watching. "I didn't know you played." "There are a lot of things you don't know about me." "Apparently." I move closer to the piano, my ankle forgotten. "That was beautiful. Sad, but beautiful." Carter's hands are still resting on the keys. His posture is tense, like he's trying to decide if he's angry about being caught or something else entirely. "It's Chopin," he says finally. "Nocturne in C-sharp minor. My mother used to play it." The mention of his mother surprises me. It's the first personal thing he's shared that isn't a strategy or a threat. "Used to? She died when I was 12. He stands from the piano, putting distance between himself and the instrument. This was hers. The piano. It's the only thing I kept from the house I grew up in. I don't know what to say to that. Don't know how to respond to this sudden glimpse of humanity from a man who's spent our entire acquaintance being either threatening or calculating. "I'm sorry," I manage finally. "Don't be." He moves to the window, looks out at the grounds. It was a long time ago, but the way he says it, the way his shoulders are still tense, tells me it doesn't matter how long ago it was. Some wounds don't heal, they just get buried deeper. "You're good," I say, because the silence is getting heavy. "At playing, I mean, you're really good." "I used to play every day." Carter glances back at me. "Before all this, before I took over the organization, it was the one thing that was mine. The one thing that had nothing to do with my father's business or expectations or any of it." "What changed?" "I did." He turns fully to face me now. "I became what I needed to become. And men like me don't sit around playing piano. We build empires and make enemies and do whatever it takes to survive." There's something bitter in his voice, something that sounds like regret, and I realize this is what Margaret meant. This is the thing that makes me different. I'm seeing parts of Carter that he doesn't usually show, and I don't know if that makes me special or just dangerously exposed. "That's sad," I say quietly. "What is?" "That you had to give up something you love to become what other people expected." Carter stares at me, and something in his expression shifts, softens for just a second before the walls go back up. "We all make sacrifices," he says, but his voice is different now, less hard. "You understand that better than most." He's right. I do understand. I gave up pieces of myself for years trying to be what my father needed, and look where that got me. "Why haven't you sent me back?" The question comes out before I can stop it. "You could have done it this morning, could have taken the money and made everyone's lives easier, so why am I still here?" Carter moves closer, stops a few feet away, and when he speaks, his voice is low and honest in a way that makes my breath catch. "Because when I found you in that alley, freezing and hurt and still refusing to beg, something in me recognized something in you." He pauses, like he's deciding how much to admit. "I've spent years becoming exactly what everyone expects. The ruthless crime lord, the man without mercy, the enemy your father warns about, and I'm very good at being that person. But then you showed up wearing a wedding dress and bleeding in my territory, and you looked at me without fear, without expectation, just brutal honesty about a situation we both knew was impossible. And for the first time in years, I felt something other than the cold calculation that keeps me alive. My heart is pounding, and I don't know what to do with this confession. Don't know how to process the fact that Carter, the most dangerous man in the city, is standing here telling me I make him feel something. What did you feel? My voice comes out barely above a whisper. Carter takes another step closer, close enough now that I can see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, close enough that I can smell his cologne. Curiosity, he says finally, about who you really are, about what you could become if you weren't performing for someone else's benefit, about whether that fire I saw in the alley is real or just a desperate act from someone who had no other options. And if it's real, then you're dangerous. A ghost of a smile crosses his face. Not because you're Lockwood's daughter, or because you could be leverage, but because you make me want things I stopped wanting a long time ago. Like what? Like connection. He says it so quietly, I almost miss it. Like seeing someone and being seen in return. Like having one person in this world who isn't afraid of me or trying to use me or pretending to be something they're not just to survive. The confession hangs in the air between us. Heavy and honest and absolutely terrifying, because this is Carter admitting he's lonely. That beneath all the power and control and carefully constructed walls, there's a man who plays his dead mother's piano and wants someone to know he exists beyond the reputation. I see you, I say, and I mean it, because right now in this moment I do see him, not the crime lord or the enemy or the dangerous man holding my life in his hands, just someone who's as trapped as I am, just in a different kind of cage. Something flashes in Carter's eyes, something raw and vulnerable and quickly hidden. Then he steps back, the walls coming up again, the professional mask sliding back into place. We should talk about your situation. His voice is back to being controlled. About what happens next. There are things you need to know. Okay, but first, he glances back at the piano, then at me, and there's something almost playful in his expression. If you tell anyone you saw me playing, I'll have to seriously reconsider my no-killing policy regarding house guests. Despite everything, I smile. Your secret is safe with me. Good. He moves toward the door, pauses. And Sarah, next time you want to spy on me, at least turn your phone on silent. Then he's gone, leaving me standing in a room with a piano and the lingering notes of something beautiful and sad. And I realize that I just saw something no one else gets to see, and somehow that feels more dangerous than anything else that's happened since I ran into his territory. Chapter 5. Living with the Enemy.
This feels normal.
Carter's office is nothing like I expected. I thought it would be all dark wood and intimidation and the kind of space designed to make visitors uncomfortable. But instead, it's surprisingly open. Floor-to-ceiling windows that look out over the city, a desk that's meticulously organized but not cold, and bookshelves that match the library I found earlier. He's already behind the desk when I arrive, reading something on his computer, and he doesn't look up immediately, just gestures to one of the chairs across from him without breaking his focus, and I'm struck by how different he looks here compared to the man playing piano 20 minutes ago. This is Carter, the crime lord, all sharp focus and controlled power, and I wonder how many people have sat in this chair knowing their life was about to change, or possibly end. Sit, he says finally, closing the laptop and giving me his full attention. I sit, trying not to let my ankle show how much it still hurts, and wait for him to speak first because I'm learning that with Carter, silence is a strategy. Your father called again, he says without preamble. Increased his offer. Apparently you're worth more than he initially thought, or maybe he's just getting desperate. Hard to tell. What did you say? Nothing. Carter leans back in his chair. I didn't take the call. Let him leave a message. Let him wonder what I'm planning. Fear is more useful than information in these situations. So, you're using me as a psychological weapon? I'm using the situation to my advantage, he corrects. There's a difference. You're not a weapon. You're a complication that I'm choosing not to resolve immediately, and that choice is making your father and Antonio very uncomfortable, which serves my purposes. The clinical way he explains it should bother me more than it does, but there's something almost refreshing about the honesty. He's not pretending this is anything other than what it is. How long can you keep this going? I ask. As long as I want. Carter's expression doesn't change. Your father can't move against me without risking you. Antonio can't push too hard without looking weak, and I control the one piece they both want, which means for now, I have all the leverage. And when that changes, then we'll adapt, He stands, moves to the window, and I'm starting to recognize this as his thinking position, looking out at the city like it holds answers. But for now, you're staying here. There are rules you need to follow. I assumed there would be. First, you don't leave the property without permission and escort. He turns to face me. There are people who would kill you just to hurt me, and others who would take you back to your father for the reward. Either way, you're safer here. Okay? Second, there are parts of the house that are off limits. If a door is locked, you don't try to open it. If there are guards present, you don't ask questions about what they're guarding. You're living in the center of an organization that operates outside the law, and there are things you're better off not knowing. Understood. Third, and here his voice changes slightly, becomes more intense. You don't make phone calls. Don't try to contact anyone from your old life. Don't give anyone information about where you are or what's happening. Your father has resources and people everywhere. One mistake could compromise everything. The reality of that hits me harder than I expected. I'm truly cut off now. No family, no friends, no connection to anything I knew before. Just this strange limbo in Carter's house where I'm neither prisoner nor guest. And if I break these rules, I ask, then we'll have a very different conversation. Carter moves back to the desk but doesn't sit. But I don't think you will. You're too smart to make obvious mistakes, which is one of the reasons you're still here. What are the other reasons? He studies me for a long moment, and I can see him deciding how much to say, how much truth to give me. Because you interest me, he says finally. Because I want to see who you become when you're not performing for your father or preparing to be someone's wife. Because you ran into my territory wearing a wedding dress, and I can't stop thinking about what kind of person does that. My heart does something complicated in my chest. That's not very strategic? No, he agrees. It's not. But I built an empire on strategy. Sometimes it's worth making decisions based on something else. Before I can respond, there's a knock on the door, and a man walks in without waiting for permission. He's tall, dark-haired, wearing a suit that probably costs as much as a car, and the way Carter's posture shifts tells me this person is important. We have a problem, the man says, then notices me and stops. Who's this? Sarah, this is James, my second in command. Carter's voice is back to being cold and professional. James, this is Sarah Lockwood. James's eyes widen slightly. Lockwood's daughter. The one who... Yes, Carter cuts him off. What's the problem? Antonio Russo is making noise about sending people to retrieve his bride. James's eyes flick to me, then back to Carter. He's calling it a breach of agreement, saying you're interfering in family business. Let him call it whatever he wants. Carter, he has support from the other families. James moves closer, lowers his voice, but I can still hear. They're saying you're starting a war over a woman, that it's weakness, that you're letting personal feelings compromise strategy. The temperature in the room drops about 10 degrees, and I watch Carter's expression shift into something dangerous. Tell me, James. His voice is quiet, which somehow makes it more threatening. When did I start taking advice about what other families think? I'm not saying because last I checked, I built this organization by not giving a damn what anyone else thinks. Carter's tone is still controlled, but there's steel underneath. And I'm certainly not going to start now because Antonio Russo is embarrassed about losing his bride. People are questioning your judgment. Then they can question it. Carter leans against the desk, arms crossed. What they can't do is tell me how to run my organization or who I allow in my house. If Antonio wants to make this a problem, he's welcome to try. We both know how that will end. James looks like he wants to argue more, but something in Carter's expression stops him. He glances at me one more time, then nods and leaves, closing the door harder than necessary. The silence that follows is heavy, and I can see Carter's jaw working like he's physically holding back anger. I'm causing problems for you, I say quietly. You're not causing anything. He turns to look at me. Antonio is causing problems because his ego can't handle the fact that you chose running into enemy territory over marrying him, and the other families are circling because they think they see weakness. But they're wrong. Are they? Yes. He moves closer, stops in front of my chair. Keeping you here isn't weakness. It's a strategic choice. Your father loses sleep every night wondering what I'm doing with you. Antonio looks like a fool who can't control his own bride. And I get to watch them both scramble while I decide what my next move is. That's not weakness. That's power. But if people think, I don't care what people think. Carter's voice is firm. I care about results, about control, about maintaining the position I've built. And right now, you being here serves all of those purposes. He's saying the right things, the strategic things, but there's something in his eyes that suggests it's not the whole truth, that maybe James was right about personal feelings compromising strategy, even if Carter won't admit it. You should rest, he says, stepping back. Your ankle needs time to heal. Margaret will bring you lunch. And if you need anything, there are staff throughout the house. Carter, I stand facing him. Thank you for not sending me back, for letting me stay. Whatever your reasons are, I know it's complicated, and I appreciate it. Something crosses his face, soft and quickly hidden. Don't thank me yet? You might regret this arrangement before it's over. Maybe. I move toward the door, pause. But for now, this is the first time in years I've felt like I could breathe. So whatever happens next, at least I had that. I leave before he can respond, but I feel his eyes on me the entire way down the hallway, and I wonder if he realizes what he just revealed, that he's willing to risk his reputation, his standing with other families, maybe even his organization, just to keep me here a little longer, and I wonder what that means for both of us. Chapter 6, Protection and Proximity.
I want freedom.
3 days pass in a strange kind of limbo, where I'm not quite a prisoner and not quite a guest, just existing in the space between while Carter handles whatever business keeps him locked in his office for hours at a time, and I explore the parts of the house he said I could access, while trying not to think about what happens when this temporary arrangement becomes untenable. Margaret warms up to me slowly, or at least stops looking at me like I'm about to explode. She brings me meals at regular intervals and doesn't comment when I barely eat them because my stomach is still adjusting to the constant anxiety. But on the third day, she sits down across from me at breakfast with a cup of coffee and a look that says, "We're about to have a conversation I probably won't enjoy." "He's been asking about you," she says without preamble. "Who?" "Carter." She takes a sip of coffee. "Asks if you ate, if you slept, if you need anything. He's never done that before, not with anyone. He's just being a good host." Margaret laughs. It's not a kind sound. "Sweetheart, Carter doesn't do hosting. He does strategy and control and occasionally violence when necessary. But asking after someone's well-being? That's new." I don't know what to say to that. Don't know how to process the idea that Carter is apparently worried about me, so I just focus on my toast and hope Margaret drops it. She doesn't. "Just be careful." Her voice is gentler now. "Whatever this is between you two, it's making him different. And different can be dangerous when you're running an organization like this. People are already talking, already questioning his judgment, and if they think you're a weakness, they can exploit." She doesn't finish, but she doesn't need to. I understand the implication that caring about me could get him killed, or me killed, or both of us killed, because that's how this world works. "I'm not trying to be a weakness," I say quietly. "I know," Margaret stands, "but sometimes we don't get to choose what we become to other people." She leaves and I'm alone with my breakfast and the uncomfortable realization that I'm affecting Carter in ways I didn't intend, in ways that could be dangerous for both of us. Later that afternoon, I'm in the library again because it's become my safe space. The one room where I can pretend I'm just a person who likes books instead of a runaway bride hiding in enemy territory. When Carter walks in carrying his laptop and a cup of coffee, like this is completely normal. "Mind if I work here?" he asks, already moving to one of the chairs by the window. "It's your house." That's not an answer. Then no, I don't mind. He settles into the chair with the kind of casual grace that shouldn't be possible for someone his size, opens the laptop and starts typing, and I try to go back to my book, but I'm hyper-aware of him, of the way he occasionally glances up at me, of the sound of his fingers on the keyboard, of the fact that he chose to work here instead of his office. 20 minutes pass in silence before I can't take it anymore. "Why are you here?" I ask. Carter looks up, one eyebrow raised. "Working." "You have an office?" "I do. So why work in the library?" He closes the laptop, studies me with that intense focus that makes me feel like I'm being x-rayed. "Because I wanted to." That's not an answer. "You just used that line on me." There's amusement in his voice now. "And you didn't give me a real answer either." Carter stands, moves to the bookshelf nearest me, runs his fingers along the spines like he's looking for something specific, and when he speaks, his voice is quieter. "Margaret said you're not eating enough." "I'm eating fine." "She said you barely touched breakfast." "Since when do you care about my eating habits?" He pulls a book from the shelf, some leather-bound edition that looks older than both of us, and turns to face me. "Since I found you half frozen in an alley, turns out nearly watching someone die makes you invested in their continued survival. Who knew?" The sarcasm doesn't hide the truth underneath, and I realize with a start that Margaret was right. He is worried about me, in whatever way Carter worries about people. "I'm fine," I say again, but gentler this time. "You're not." He moves closer, sits on the arm of the chair across from mine. "You're anxious and stressed and probably not sleeping well, which is understandable given the circumstances, but you still need to eat. Why do you care? The question comes out sharper than I intended, and Carter goes very still, like I've touched something he wasn't ready to examine. I don't know, he says, finally, and the honesty in those 3 words is devastating. I should see you as leverage or a strategic asset or a problem to be managed, and part of me does, but there's another part that just wants to make sure you're okay, and I don't know what to do with that. The confession hangs between us, raw and vulnerable, and I realize we're both navigating completely unfamiliar territory here. I'll try to eat more, I say quietly. Thank you. He doesn't move, just sits there looking at me with an expression I can't quite read, and the silence stretches until it's almost uncomfortable. Do you want to have dinner with me tonight? The question comes out of him, like it surprised him as much as it surprises me. Not as guard and prisoner, just as 2 people who are stuck in this situation together. Is that allowed? I make the rules. His mouth quirks slightly. So, yes. Then okay. Something shifts in his expression. Relief, maybe, or satisfaction. And he stands. 7 o'clock. Dining room. Margaret will show you where. He's almost to the door when I call after him. Carter? He turns back. Why did you really come to the library? He looks at me for a long moment. And when he speaks, his voice is almost too quiet to hear. Because when I'm in my office, all I do is think about what could go wrong, about threats and strategies and all the ways this situation could explode. But when I'm here with you, reading or working in silence, it's the first time in years I've felt something like peace. Then he's gone, leaving me alone with a book I'm no longer reading and the terrifying realization that whatever is happening between us is moving faster than either of us can control. And I don't know if that's going to save us or destroy us. That evening, I find the dining room with Margaret's help. It's less formal than I expected. Just a table that seats 8 with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city at twilight, and Carter is already there. Changed from his earlier clothes into dark jeans and a sweater that makes him look less like a crime lord, and more like someone I might have met under different circumstances. You came, he says, like he wasn't sure I would. You invited me. That doesn't always mean people show up. He pulls out a chair for me, and the gesture is so unexpectedly gentlemanly that I almost laugh. Dinner is surprisingly normal. Roasted chicken and vegetables and bread that's still warm, and we eat in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Carter speaks. Tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with your father or the life you left behind. The request catches me off guard. Like what? Anything. He leans back in his chair. Your favorite book. A place you've always wanted to visit, something that makes you you instead of just Lockwood's daughter. I think about it, really think about it, and realize I don't have an easy answer because I spent so long being what my father needed that I stopped being anything else. I don't know, I admit finally. Then we'll figure it out together, Carter says, and there's something in his voice that sounds like a promise, starting tonight. And somehow, impossibly, that sounds like the most dangerous thing either of us could do. Chapter 7, Dangerous Territory.
I can't have intentions.
Okay, Carter says, setting down his fork. Let's start simple. What's your favorite color? I almost laugh because of all the questions he could ask. That's the most mundane. I don't know if I have one. Everyone has a favorite color. Do they? Or do they just have a color they were told to like? I take a sip of wine, the first alcohol I've had in days, and it goes straight to my head. My bedroom growing up was pink, because that's what my father thought girls liked. I never got to choose. Carter's expression darkens slightly. So choose now. Just like that? Why not? He gestures around the room. You're not in your father's house anymore. You don't have to be what anyone expects, so pick a color, any color, the most ridiculous one you can think of. I consider this, really consider it, and something loosens in my chest. Purple. The deep kind that's almost black, like the sky right before a storm. Purple? Carter repeats, and there's something approving in his tone. Not what I expected. What did you expect? Something safer, pink or blue or whatever daughters of crime lords are supposed to like. He refills my wine glass, even though I've barely touched it. But purple is interesting. It's dangerous and beautiful at the same time, kind of like you. The compliment catches me off guard, and I feel heat creep up my neck. You think I'm dangerous? I think you're the most dangerous person I've met in years. Carter's voice is serious now. Not because you have weapons or power or any of the usual things, but because you make me want things I stopped letting myself want a long time ago. Like what? Like this. He gestures between us, sitting across from someone and having a conversation that isn't about strategy or money or who's trying to kill who this week. Just talking about favorite colors and figuring out who we are when no one's watching. The honesty in his voice does something to my chest. makes it hard to breathe properly. Your turn, I say, needing to shift focus before I do something stupid. Tell me something about you. I hate the ocean, Carter says immediately. That's random. You asked for something about me. He takes a drink of his wine. When I was 8, my father threw me off a boat in the middle of the harbor, said I needed to learn to swim or drown. That weakness wasn't acceptable in our family. My stomach turns. That's horrible. That was Tuesday. He says it so casually, but there's something hard in his eyes. Wednesday, I learned how to pick locks. Thursday was hand-to-hand combat with kids twice my size. Friday was watching my father hurt people who disappointed him. And by Saturday, I understood exactly what I was being groomed to become. And your mother? Played piano and pretended she didn't see what he was doing to me. Carter's jaw tightens. She died when I was 12. Heart attack. At least that's what the doctor said. But I always wondered if it was just her body finally giving up on trying to survive in that house. The pain in his voice is so raw, it makes my chest ache. I'm sorry. Don't be. He looks at me, and there's something vulnerable in his expression. She gave me the piano, taught me that there were things in the world worth caring about beyond power and control, even if she couldn't escape herself. She made sure I knew there was more, and that's something. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of shared trauma hanging between us, and I realize we're more alike than I thought, both shaped by fathers who saw us as tools instead of people, both trying to figure out who we are when the expectations are stripped away. My turn again, Carter says, clearly wanting to shift to something lighter. What's something you've always wanted to do but never could? Travel, the answer comes immediately. Anywhere that isn't here, Paris, Tokyo, some small town no one's ever heard of, I don't even care where. I just want to go somewhere because I chose it, not because my father had business there or needed me to be seen somewhere. Where would you go first? I think about it, let myself imagine actually having that freedom. Santorini, I saw pictures once. Those white buildings and blue roofs and the ocean everywhere. It looked like something from a dream. It's beautiful, Carter says, and when I look at him in surprise, he shrugs. I've had business there a few years ago. Spent an extra day just walking around because it felt different from all of this. What's it like? Peaceful. His voice goes soft. Like time moves differently there. Like all the violence and strategy and constant threat doesn't exist for a few hours. Like you could just be a person instead of a weapon. The way he describes it makes my chest tight with longing. Maybe I'll go someday. Maybe we both will, Carter says. And there's a promise in those words that terrifies and thrills me simultaneously. Dinner continues, and we trade stories that have nothing to do with crime families or arranged marriages or the dangerous situation we're in. He tells me about learning to cook because the chefs his father hired kept quitting. I tell him about sneaking books from the library that my father would have burned if he'd known I was reading them. And slowly, impossibly, we stop being crime lord and runaway bride and just become two people getting to know each other. I should probably go, I say eventually, even though I don't want to. The wine and conversation and his presence have created a bubble I don't want to pop. Probably, Carter agrees but doesn't move. Or you could stay. And do what? Talk more? Watch a movie? I don't know. Whatever people do when they're not running criminal organizations or hiding from arranged marriages. I should say no. Should maintain some distance. Should remember that this man is dangerous and I'm only here because leaving would be worse. But the truth is, I don't want to go back to that guest room and spend another night alone with my thoughts. Okay. Something flickers in Carter's eyes. Relief, maybe. And he stands. Come on, there's a media room that never gets used. Might as well put it to work. The media room turns out to be exactly what it sounds like. A space with comfortable couches and a screen that takes up an entire wall, and technology that probably costs more than most cars. Carter fiddles with remotes while I sink into one of the couches, and I'm struck by how normal this feels. Like we're just two people about to watch a movie instead of a crime lord and his accidental house guest. What do you want to watch? He asks. I don't know. What do you have? Everything. He gestures to the screen, showing seemingly endless options. That's the problem with streaming services. Infinite choices, and no idea what you actually want. You pick. Dangerous words, but he scrolls through options with the kind of focus he probably uses for business decisions. How do you feel about action movies? Seems on brand for you. That's a yes? That's a yes. He selects something that looks explosively expensive, and the movie starts. But I'm not really watching because I'm too aware of Carter sitting a respectable distance away on the same couch, and I wonder if he's as conscious of the space between us as I am. 20 minutes into the movie, his phone buzzes. He glances at it, and his entire body language changes, goes from relaxed to tense in a heartbeat. What's wrong? I ask. Antonio's making a move. Carter's voice is cold now, all business. He contacted the Valdez family, trying to build a coalition to pressure me into returning you. My stomach drops. What does that mean? It means the game just got more complicated. He stands, already moving toward the door. Stay here. I need to make some calls. Carter? He pauses, looks back at me, and there's something almost apologetic in his expression. I'm not giving you back. I need you to know that whatever move Antonio makes, whatever pressure comes, you're safe here. Why? Because I said so, he responds, then softer. Because I'm not done figuring out who you are yet. Then he's gone, and I'm alone in a media room with a movie still playing that I'm no longer watching, and I realize that whatever tentative peace we've been existing in is about to shatter, because Antonio isn't going to stop, and my father isn't going to stop, and eventually Carter is going to have to choose between keeping me safe and protecting his organization. I just don't know which one he'll pick when it comes down to it. An hour passes, then 2, and Carter doesn't come back. I turn off the movie and make my way back toward my room, passing his office where I can hear his voice, low and controlled, but with an edge that suggests whoever's on the other end of that call is about to have a very bad day. I should keep walking, should give him privacy, but something makes me pause outside the door. I don't care what Valdez thinks. Carter's voice carries through the door. Antonio can build whatever coalition he wants. I'm not negotiating on this. She stays here. End of discussion. A pause. Then his voice drops even lower. Dangerous. Tell Antonio that if he keeps pushing, he's going to learn exactly why people don't cross me, and tell Valdez that aligning with a man who can't even keep his own bride is a bad strategic move. They want to test me over this? Fine, but they better be ready for what happens next. The call ends. Silence. Then the sound of something breaking. Glass, maybe, and I should definitely walk away now, but my feet won't move. The door opens suddenly, and Carter is there, sees me standing in the hallway, and something complicated crosses his face. How much did you hear? Enough to know I'm causing you problems. You're not, he starts, then stops, runs a hand through his hair. Okay, you are, but not in the way you think. Then how? Carter steps into the hallway, closes the office door behind him, and when he speaks, his voice is tired. You're making me choose between strategy and something else, between what's smart and what I want, and I've spent my entire life making the smart choice, the strategic one, the one that keeps the organization strong. But with you, I keep wanting to make the other choice, the selfish one, and that's dangerous for everyone involved. Then maybe you should send me back, I say, even though the words taste like acid. Maybe that's the smart play. Probably. He takes a step closer. But I already told you, I'm not done figuring out who you are yet, and apparently, I'm willing to risk a lot to keep that option open. Why? Because for the first time in years, I feel like I'm living instead of just surviving. The confession comes out raw. Because you look at me like I'm a person instead of a weapon. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it felt like before all of this consumed everything, and I'm selfish enough to want more of that even if it costs me. The honesty steals my breath. Carter, go to bed, Sarah, he says, but his voice is gentle. Tomorrow is going to be complicated, and you should rest while you can. He starts to walk away, back toward his office, and I do something that surprises both of us. I grab his hand. He stops, turns, looks at our joined hands like he's not sure what to do with them. Thank you, I say quietly, for choosing the selfish option, for not sending me back, for giving me a chance to figure out who I am. I know it's costing you, and I just wanted you to know it means something. Carter stares at me for a long moment, then does something that stops my heart. He brings my hand to his lips, presses a kiss to my knuckles, gentle and devastating. Get some rest, he says again, then releases my hand and disappears into his office, leaving me standing in the hallway with my heart racing and the ghost of his lips on my skin. And I realize that whatever is happening between us just crossed a line we can't uncross. And I don't know if that terrifies me or thrills me or both. Chapter 8, The Choice.
I choose you.
I don't sleep that night, just lie in bed, replaying the feel of Carter's lips on my hand and wondering what it means that such a small gesture can feel like everything. And when dawn breaks through the windows, I'm still wide awake, still thinking about the way he looked at me, like I was something worth risking everything for. Margaret brings breakfast, but her expression is different today, worried in a way that makes my stomach knot. Carter wants to see you, she says without her usual preamble. In his office now. The urgency in her tone gets me moving. I throw on clothes and make my way down the hallway, my ankle barely protesting anymore, and when I reach his office, the door is already open. Carter is standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear, his entire body tense. I don't care what they're offering, he says into the phone. His voice is cold and final. The answer is no. It will always be no, so you can tell Antonio and Valdez and anyone else who wants to weigh in that this conversation is over. He ends the call, turns, sees me standing in the doorway, and something in his expression makes my breath catch. What happened? I ask. Antonio made his move. Carter gestures for me to come in, closes the door behind me. He's assembled a coalition of 5 families, all demanding I return you or face consequences. They're calling it a matter of respect, of maintaining order in the community, but what they really mean is they see weakness, and they're testing how far they can push. My heart is pounding. What kind of consequences? War, he says it simply, like it's just another business decision. They cut off supply lines, target my operations, make it expensive and bloody until I give in. That's the play. Make keeping you more costly than sending you back. Then send me back. No. Carter, if keeping me here means war. I said no. His voice is firm, final. I'm not negotiating on this. You're staying here. And if they want to make it a problem, then we'll deal with that problem. Why? The question explodes out of me. Why are you willing to risk everything for someone you barely know, someone who's been nothing but a complication since the moment you found me? Why won't you just cut your losses and, because I'm in love with you? The words stop me cold, and Carter runs a hand through his hair like he can't believe he just said them out loud. Or I'm falling in love with you, or whatever the hell this is when you can't stop thinking about someone. When keeping them safe matters more than strategy or money or maintaining power. When the idea of sending them back to a life they hate makes you want to burn the entire world down. I can't breathe, can't think, can only stare at him while he continues. I know it's insane. I know we've only known each other a week. I know this violates every rule I've ever had about keeping emotions separate from business. He moves closer, stops a few feet away. But you asked me why I won't send you back, and that's the answer because somewhere between carrying you out of that alley and having dinner with you last night, I stopped seeing you as leverage or a strategic asset and started seeing you as the first person in years who makes me feel like I'm more than just the monster everyone expects. My eyes are burning and I realize I'm crying, actual tears running down my face, and I don't even know why, except that no one has ever said anything like that to me before. No one has ever chosen me over the smart play. Carter, the window explodes inward, glass everywhere, and Carter is moving before I can process what's happening. He throws himself at me, takes us both to the ground behind the desk, his body covering mine, and I hear gunfire, multiple weapons, the sound of men shouting, and reality crashes down with brutal clarity. They're not just making threats anymore, they're attacking. Stay down. Carter's voice is in my ear, commanding and protective. Don't move until I say. He's up and moving. There's a gun in his hand that I didn't see him pull, and he's returning fire through the broken window with the kind of precision that reminds me exactly who he is, what he's capable of. This isn't the man who plays piano or asks about favorite colors. This is Carter, the crime lord, and he's terrifying. The attack lasts maybe 3 minutes, but feels like hours. Then there's shouting from outside, Carter's men responding, and the gunfire stops as abruptly as it started. Carter moves to the window, careful, checking to make sure it's really over, then turns back to me where I'm still crouched behind the desk, shaking. Are you hurt? He's beside me instantly, hands on my face, checking for injuries. I'm fine, but my voice is shaking. What was that? Antonio sending a message. Carter's jaw is tight with rage, showing that he's serious, that he's willing to escalate. He could have killed you. That was probably the point. Carter helps me to my feet. Glass crunches under our shoes. But he underestimated my security, or he sent amateurs. Either way, it was a failed attempt. James bursts through the door, gun drawn, sees us, and some of the tension leaves his shoulders. Everyone okay? We're fine. Carter's voice is cold, controlled. Casualties? 2 of ours injured. Nothing serious. We took out 3 of theirs, the rest scattered. James looks at me, then back at Carter. This is getting out of control. Antonio's not going to stop. And now that he's drawn blood, he's committed. We need to make a decision. I already made my decision, Carter says, and there's steel in his voice. Double the security, put everyone on high alert, and send a message to Antonio that if he comes at me again, he better not miss, because I won't. James nods and leaves, and I'm alone with Carter again, surrounded by broken glass and the lingering smell of gunpowder, and the reality of what he's chosen crashes over me. You could have died, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. Because of me, you could have died, but I didn't. Carter, this is insane. Keeping me here is going to get people killed, is going to destroy everything you've built. You can't sacrifice your entire organization for you? He moves closer, cups my face with both hands. Yes, I can and I will, because that organization, that power, that reputation, all of it means nothing if I have to spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to choose you. That's not rational. I don't care. His forehead touches mine, and his voice drops to something raw and honest. I spent my entire life being rational, being strategic, being exactly what I needed to be to survive and build power, and it made me successful and feared and completely empty inside. Then you showed up in a wedding dress and reminded me what it felt like to want something more than just survival. What if wanting me destroys you? Then I'll be destroyed. He pulls back enough to look me in the eyes. But at least I'll know I lived before I died, that I chose something real instead of just existing in a carefully constructed cage. You understand that better than anyone. You ran from your own wedding because you refused to be someone's possession. Well, I'm refusing to let fear or strategy or anyone else dictate what I do with my heart. The declaration is so honest, so raw, that I can't help myself. I close the distance between us and kiss him. It's not gentle or tentative. It's desperate and real, and everything I've been feeling for the past week compressed into a single moment. And Carter responds immediately, one hand tangling in my hair while the other wraps around my waist, pulling me closer like he's afraid I'll disappear. We break apart, breathing hard, and there's something fierce and possessive in his eyes. "You're mine," he says, not a question, a statement. "I don't care what Antonio thinks, what your father thinks, what anyone thinks. You're mine and I'm yours, and that's the only thing that matters." "Carter, I'm not asking you to love me back," he continues, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "I know this is complicated and messy and probably the worst possible situation for anything real, but I need you to know that I choose you every day, every time, no matter what it costs. I choose you." The tears are back, streaming down my face, and I realize I'm smiling through them. "You're an idiot," I say, but my voice is full of affection, a beautiful, dangerous, completely insane idiot. "Probably," he smiles, really smiles, and it transforms his entire face. "But I'm your idiot now if you'll have me." "Yes," the answer comes without hesitation. "Yes, I'll have you, all of you, the crime lord and the piano player and everything in between." He kisses me again, softer this time. And for a moment, I let myself believe this is possible, that we can have this, despite everything working against us. Then his phone rings. Carter pulls back, checks it, and his expression goes dark. "What?" I ask. "It's your father." He shows me the screen. "He wants to talk, says he has a proposal that will end all of this." My stomach drops. "Don't answer it." "I have to." Carter's voice is grim. "If there's a way to end this without more bloodshed, I need to hear it." He answers, puts it on speaker. "Carter?" My father's voice fills the room, smooth and calculated. "I hear you've been having some trouble with Antonio." "Nothing I can't handle." "I'm sure." There's amusement in his tone. "But I'm calling to offer you a solution. Return my daughter, and I'll handle Antonio. I'll make sure this coalition falls apart. Make sure you don't have to fight a war on multiple fronts. And in exchange? In exchange, you forget this ever happened?" My father's voice hardens. "You forget you ever had her. Forget whatever attachment you've developed. And we all move on with our lives." Carter looks at me, and I see the calculation in his eyes, the weighing of options, and for a terrible second I think he might actually consider it. Then he speaks, and his voice is cold as ice. "No deal. Your daughter stays here because she wants to, because I want her to, and because I'd rather burn every bridge I have than send her back to you." Silence on the other end. Then my father laughs, but there's no humor in it. "You're making a mistake, Carter, one that will cost you everything." "Then I'll pay the price." Carter's eyes never leave mine. "But she's not for sale. Not to you, not to Antonio, not to anyone. We'll see," my father says, and there's a promise in those words that makes my blood run cold. This isn't over. The line goes dead. Carter sets down the phone, and we stand there in his destroyed office surrounded by glass and the ghost of gunfire. And I realize that everything is about to get so much worse. "What do we do now?" I ask. "Now?" Carter pulls me close, his arms wrapping around me like he can shield me from what's coming. "Now we fight together. Whatever happens next, we face it together." I lean into him, let myself take comfort in his strength, and I want to believe him. Want to believe that love and choice and refusing to give up can be enough. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I know my father better than Carter does. Know that he doesn't make idle threats, and that phone call wasn't just a negotiation, it was a declaration of war. And as I stand there in Carter's arms, I can't shake the feeling that the real battle hasn't even started yet, that everything up until now has just been the opening move, and whatever my father is planning, Whatever he's already set in motion, it's going to test everything Carter just promised me. The question is whether we'll survive it.
Top 3 curiosities Lena left hidden in the story. 1. The mother's ring had an inscription that rang from Sarah's mother that she tucked into her tiny clutch before running away. There's an inscription on the inside, "Choose yourself." Sarah's mother had it engraved 3 days before she died, as if she knew that one day her daughter would need that message. Carter saw the inscription when Sarah showed it to him on the 3rd night. 2. Carter almost bought Santorini. After that conversation about Sarah wanting to go to Santorini, Carter spent 2 hours researching properties on the island. Not exactly to buy, just in case. James found him with 47 tabs open on his computer, all of houses with ocean views. When James asked what he was doing, Carter closed everything quickly and muttered something about market research. No one believed him. 3. The piano was intentionally out of tune. Carter kept his mother's piano out of tune for 10 years because the pain of hearing it sound perfect was unbearable. When he played Chopin that night, the notes were slightly off and he didn't even notice anymore. He had grown used to imperfection. Sarah noticed. She didn't say anything at the time, but 3 weeks later, Carter came home and found a piano tuner leaving. She said it was a gift, the man explained. Carter didn't touch the piano for 2 days because he was too busy crying in his office, LOL. Lena's note. What it was like writing Sarah and Carter when I started writing The Runaway Bride, I didn't expect this story to affect me so deeply. At first, it was just another dark romance. The formula I knew. The dangerous mafia boss, and the woman who defies everything. But something happened along the way. Sarah refused to be just another fragile protagonist waiting to be saved. And Carter refused to be just a dominant alpha without layers. The moment that changed everything for me was the piano scene. I was writing that part at 2 a.m., exhausted, thinking it was just another transition scene. But when I wrote Carter playing Chopin, the nocturne his mother used to play before she died, something in me broke. Suddenly, I saw a man who had buried who he really was in order to survive. A man who kept his dead mother's piano out of tune because perfection hurt too much. And Sarah caught him in that vulnerable moment, accidentally invading his one sacred space. I cried writing that, because I realized this story wasn't about crime or power or even the forbidden romance. It was about 2 people who spent their entire lives performing to survive, being what others expected, slowly dying inside, and then found each other and said, "No, enough. I choose to be real with you." The scene that impacted me the most was when Carter found her on the ground, freezing, injured, still wearing her wedding dress. He didn't ask anything. He didn't judge. He simply picked her up and took her home. In that moment, before he even knew who she was, he had already made the choice. Something in him recognized something in her, 2 souls running from their own cages. The connection between Sarah and Carter moved me because it's rare. It's not cheap insta-love. It's not physical attraction disguised as depth. It's recognition. It's looking at another person and seeing your own ghosts, your own cage, your own exhaustion from pretending, and deciding together that it's worth risking everything to be genuine with at least one person in this world. Writing their dialogue challenged me. I wanted every conversation to carry weight. When they talk about favorite colors at dinner, it's not small talk. It's Sarah choosing something that's hers for the first time. When Carter admits he hates the ocean because his father threw him into it to learn to swim or die, it's him showing scars he normally hides. Their sarcasm is armor. Underneath it, pure, raw vulnerability. The attack scene was the hardest to write because I knew and Carter knew that he was choosing chaos, choosing war, choosing possible self-destruction. Antonio fired at that window as a warning. Sarah's father made that call as an ultimatum. And Carter, looking at Sarah, essentially said, "Screw all of this. I choose you." What kind of love is that? The scariest kind. The kind that doesn't calculate. The kind that simply decides and bears the consequences. I fell in love with them in the process. And that kiss after the attack? When Sarah finally said, "Yes, I choose you too," kissing him amid shattered glass and the smell of gunpowder? I reread that scene 20 times before publishing to make sure it carried the right weight. It wasn't "we're finally together and everything will be fine." It was "we're together and everything will get worse. But I don't care because you're worth it." Writing this changed me as a writer. It made me demand more depth from my characters, more honesty in conversations, more real consequences for impossible choices, more humanity hidden beneath layers of danger. And now, leaving you with that brutal cliffhanger at the end of part 1? Cruel, I know. Sarah's father saying, "This isn't over," isn't an empty threat. Part 2 will show exactly how much it costs to choose love in a world that only understands power. There will be betrayal, blood, moments where Sarah will have to decide if it's really worth it or if she should have accepted the marriage to Antonio. Moments where Carter will question whether his love for her will destroy everything he built. But there will also be Santorini. There will be the piano being played in tune for the first time in 10 years. There will be Sarah wearing purple and Carter smiling like a lovesick idiot. There will be Margaret rolling her eyes but secretly loving seeing the boss happy. There will be James making terrible jokes about purple storms because Sarah and Carter deserve their happy ending. They'll just have to walk through hell first. And I can't wait to write every second of that journey with all my heart and a little necessary cruelty. Lena P.S. Easter egg for those who stayed until the end. Carter really did create that Purple Storm playlist. And yes, when Sarah finds out part 2, chapter 3, you can hold me to it. It will be the cutest and most embarrassing scene I've ever written. Prepare your hearts, darlings.